what he made?
This is the Colorado Author Interview Circle. And today we're talking with Mark Stevens.
Mark.
And we have so much to talk about.
A lot of ground to cover.
We have a lot of, so
of
we're
ground.
I'm just gonna get started right now. I don't even care. I'm just gonna go right into it.
I mean, that's why we're here to
Jump
get
in.
started. Yeah.
So, so you've written 4 novels.
Correct.
And you've also helped get the voice of Gary Riley out into the world. And it's such a beautiful story. I wanted to kind of start there.
Well, I appreciate it because Gary was such a huge influence and help to me to get over that line into published land. I met Gary in 2004. He was a tremendous mentor and one of the best fiction writers I'd ever met or worked with, and that covers a lot of ground. I've been working with a lot of different writers in different capacities, and I met Gary in 2004. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2011. He'd only been published once in his lifetime. He published a short story that was picked up by the Iowa Writers Review in 1978 and published the next year in the 4th ever edition of the Pushcart Prize Anthology, which is a national collection of the best short stories, but never published after that. However, when he passed away, he had left 25 novels behind. Beautiful, beautiful books. 10 of those about a cab driver in Denver named Brendan Murphy, aka Murph, and those are very, very funny books. We've so far published 7 of those.
Wow.
And they've done well. 2 Colorado Book Award finalists out of that group, and it's just been great to push and see Gary's work get out and get noticed. Booklist just this month wrote a glowing review of the first book, and National Public Radio is twice out of Washington mentioned how good these books are.
And that's Gary Riley, and that's book, the Booklist one was?
The Asphalt Warrior.
The Asphalt Warrior.
It's the whole Asphalt Warrior series, and the Asphalt Warrior, Ticket to Hollywood, The Heart of Darkness Club, Home of the Holidays, Dr. Love Beads, Dark Night of the Soul, and the 7th book is Pick Up at Union Station.
My goodness,
And
25
we've got 3
novels.
more in that series to go. We've already published one of the first books in his Vietnam trilogy, which came out a year and a half ago, called The Enlisted Men's Club. And in April, we'll publish what my partner Mike Keefe and Mike is the former editorial cartoonist at the Denver Post, Pulitzer Prize-winning editorial cartoonist. He's my partner in this whole project. He introduced me to Gary in 2004. Mike and I believe that the book that comes out in April, it's called The Detachment, is a masterpiece.
Wow.
It is just it's an amazingly well done book about Gary's experience as a military policeman in Vietnam.
My goodness.
So what? So
Wow.
did Gary not? Did he not query, or did he just not get lucky querying? Or
Gary would query. It's funny. I would push him to query. I'd push him to come to RMFW, Rocky Mountain Fiction Writer events. He was not a networking kind of schmoozing kind of guy. He was a wonderful, wonderful human being, warm and loving guy. He loved kids. He loved dogs. He loved his circle of friends. But he would get a little discouraged when he'd get an agent maybe to say, send me 30 pages, and then they'd decline.
Yeah.
And what we all know now, or at least what most of the people I know, is you've got to query and query and
Yes,
query.
endlessly.
And 75, 100 queries until you might get that one that lines up. And, he just got discouraged, so he'd go back and write another book or something, or go polish, repolish.
25 books later.
That's
incredible.
that's in another life I was Gary, because
Yeah,
I spent 20 years writing with never querying, because I was too afraid.
Right.
It's scary.
Right.
It's scary
Oh my
because there's a lot of pressure on it. I
Right.
think you put a lot of pressure on each individual query and submission. It's really hard to do. So I understand that, but that's an incredible tribute you've paid to him.
Well, it's been great. I mean, it's just been fantastic to see the response. I can tell you, it's just, it makes us all feel good. Gary had a huge
Bet.
family, lots of brothers and sisters. His ex-girlfriend, who took care of him for all those years while he was writing, she knew the talent that was
Mhm.
there. And she's still around, obviously, and just loves to see this stuff get out. And again, the response. National Public Radio, and it was a
Jeez.
cab driver in London who reviews books occasionally for Scott Simon on NPR, who twice has jumped on and said the Murph books are he called them huge fun, and he called Pick Up at Union Station, which came out last year, rattling good yarn.
All right.
Yeah, and it is.
But the lesson here
Yeah.
is write books, send them out, write books, send them out, because you never know.
You never know. Yeah.
But thank you. I mean, it's really
incredible.
it's the mythology of the idea that we write books in our lifetimes and that they'll live on.
Yeah.
And that you've really
Yeah.
made that happen.
You made that happen.
What a
Gary.
wonderful tribute.
Well, I do think it's a little bit like the John Kennedy Toole story with Confederacy of Dunces.
Right.
However, and I love that book.
I love
absolutely love that book. You know, who doesn't? Who doesn't?
Oh, I know.
But that guy left one novel, and it was an amazing prize winner.
Yeah.
Gary left 25
Wow.
novels behind, and they're in beautiful shape.
Which is a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah.
Whether or not
Right.
they're all masterpieces, that's a huge undertaking.
Exactly.
So
No,
that's
but-
great.
But speaking of Rocky Mountain fiction writers,
Yes.
you were the former president.
Right.
Yes.
Did you have anybody killed? It's okay. It's just
We
between
can
you and
admit,
us and
yeah,
the internet.
It's not a
That's
formal
okay.
confession. Just tell the camera.
it was a tremendous couple of years. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really exciting, really good.
It's a great organization.
I would not have been published without Gary Riley and without Rocky Mountain Fiction
Yeah.
Writers. RMFW, the networking that provided, the professionalism, the standards, the things I learned in going to workshops and going to conferences year after year, and no question about it, made all the difference.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And you
so-
have 4 novels out in the world
4 books,
And
currently published.
right,
and the fourth one just came out.
right.
Lake of Fire.
Last fall.
Boom,
And you
Allison
had to get
Coil
it
series.
because you also you get the Meat Puppets song.
That's from a Meat Puppet song.
So you wrote to them.
Yes.
Did you write to them or did you write to the music?
I wrote to the manager. He lives in Minneapolis, which is kind of strange because my publisher's up in the same neck of the woods.
Right.
And it took a few emails going back and forth. He had to run it by the lead singer and make sure he was cool with it, and they absolutely said yes. And then once I had the email okay, then my publisher said, well, then they have to sign this form. So the form had to go, and I had to get the signature and all that
Worth
kind
it
of stuff.
though.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So this is an Allison Coil mystery. Tell
Right.
us a bit about Allison Coil and her history.
Sure. Well, Allison is based on a woman I met years ago in the Flat Tops Wilderness in western Colorado.
Wow.
And my wife and I were up on a day-long horseback ride in the Flat Tops, which is a gorgeous part of the state.
Yes.
And it was a summer ride, and this woman who led us, there were probably 12 of us on horseback, big, long, dawn to dusk kind of a ride. And she was enthusiastic about her environment. She knew everything about the clouds, the weeds, the trees, the animals. And then she casually let it drop that she was also a hunting guide. And I had written some mysteries at that point. I'd written 2. I had good New York agents for both projects. I didn't think that day I was looking around for a heroine or any sort of mystery inspiration at all.
Right.
But it was just one of those moments where you say, a female hunting guide. So I went back with her in the fall, followed her around.
With Allison, or what
With
was
the
her
woman.
name?
Her name was Renee.
Renee. Okay,
I still trade emails with her. I got one yesterday from her asking questions about things.
that's great.
And people know her in that neck of the woods. She's now a veterinarian in Montrose.
Oh, cool.
But she's very well known. And, I do book signings in the area, and I'd start talking about this, and they'd say, who was it? And I'd say, Renee. We know Renee.
Renee!
Yeah.
And she obviously knows
Oh, yeah.
that she was.
She's
how
a
does
huge
she?
show.
What does she say about that?
She loves it. She
Yeah?
absolutely loves it. Yeah. So I just thought, young, enthusiastic, smart woman. I mean, a man's world with guns and liquor and
Yeah.
stupidity around.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of work in some themes, and Western Colorado is fascinating, and all the topical issues you can kind of work in.
Yeah,
Sure.
It is. It's a great context to put a murder mystery in that.
So it's a
town.
contemporary western, but
Yeah.
it's also is it a murder mystery or just a mystery?
They're mysteries.
They're
murder mysteries. Yeah, there's a fair amount of bodies piling up.
Well,
Not
you gotta
piling
kill
up.
Lots of bodies.
not lots, but they're played for mysteries, straight up mysteries.
And so you're saying you talked about how there's kind of different thematic kind of issues that you've kind of tackled.
Yeah.
Right. The first one, Antler Dust, dealt with big game poaching and animal rights activists. It starts on the opening day of the hunting season with a whole group of animal rights activists trying to shut down the elk hunt with boom boxes and banging pots and pans. The second book, Buried by the Roan, dealt with fracking and natural gas development and the whole pressure on that region. Third book, Trapline, was dealt with for-profit prisons and immigration as issues. Might not think for-profit prisons and a wilderness kind of based book would be a good fit, but I found a way, I think, to make it work. And the fourth book, Lake of Fire, deals with climate change, and it was inspired by a really one of the largest manhunts in Colorado history in 1998, when a Cortez police officer was shot and killed in downtown Cortez. Launched 500 police and law enforcement officers into the wilderness to chase down these 3 desert survivalists. So and that actually happened. Those guys got away. They didn't
got
find
away?
500 law enforcement officers.
But they were desert survivalists.
They had trained. They knew what they were doing. They didn't know that day that they were probably going to be on a hunted, but they had done lots of practicing.
What had happened? What caused the manhunt?
Well, they shot and killed the police
right.
officer, and so in come the law enforcement. I mean, National Guard, even the tribal Indian reservations put out their law enforcement.
Wow. What a crazy story.
There's a great book out there called Dead Run by a guy named Dan Schultz, and I read that book, and it's all about the events that led up to that manhunt.
And they're still out there?
No, one guy's body was found 3 months later, roughly. Don't hold me to this. Another guy's about 15, 18 months. Another guy they didn't find his body for years.
Bodies in the desert?
Right.
So they didn't make it.
They didn't make it.
Wow.
But they weren't also.
What a crazy story.
captured. So
That's
Man.
so fascinating. Well, Mark, I feel so honored. Oh my God. Thank you so much for
Thanks
coming.
for
Is there
having me.
anything else you want to?
Oh, that's fine. I thank you so much. I appreciate
So you have
it.
a 5th Allison Coil. So what's on the
Yes,
horizon?
let's hear about
Well,
your future.
The next book is, I can tell you the tentative title. It's called The Melancholy Howl. And it's based on the legalization of marijuana.
Yes, all right. So you got to tackle that now.
Yeah, really
Right?
you do. I mean, it's such a great. I mean, I deal with a lot of people outside the Colorado, and the first question is, you've been smoking the dope, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, nah.
Yeah, search Denver on Google Images and you'll get a bunch of pot leaves.
Well, thank you
Thank you.
so much, Mark Stevens. And thank you, Gary Riley, wherever you
Wherever
are.
you are, Gary. That's awesome.
This has been the Colorado Author Interview Circle. I'm Aaron Michael Ritchie.
And I'm Cody May.
And stay classy, Denver.
Sassy Denver.
All right.
Whatever it is.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Oh, man.
Wow, man.
Barely.